Evening everybody, how you doing? I think I should be more or less in the middle. Yeah, how you doing? It's Sunday and my cat's chasing something on the floor already. Off to a good start. Yeah, Sunday. I've just been home from work for a little while. We've been having this rather crazy little storm in England. He's in my part of England at the moment. And yeah, obviously as I now work Sundays, I've been working outside and all day. Luckily I had quite an easy day. But regardless, it made the job harder than it needed to be. I'm glad to be home. I'm still trying to dry out properly. It'd been more or less dry pretty much the whole day. Then just as I finished work, all the rain just came crashing down and got completely and utterly soaked and cold. And I just thought, had enough of this, and I came home basically. But yeah, I at one point today I actually had to pull a tree that had fallen over in the road out of the way just so I could get my truck through to get to my deliveries. So that was interesting. I've never had to do that before. So it just goes to show how crazy the winds in particular have been today. So yeah, I'm a little bit tired now. I'm home. All the adrenaline has just rushed out of my body. I'm a little bit tired, but I wanted to get a video up. I just want to talk a little bit about about how my septum is settling down, how my nose is settling down, and what I'm planning on doing going forwards. So I have, for the time being, I've actually elected to take my septum out completely. It's actually on my thumb at the moment. I was wearing it today, but I've actually decided I will take it out completely for the time being. Kitten's going crazy. So for the time being, let's turn the TV off. Don't do that on the background. And I have decided I will take it out for the time being, just to let the real thin spot fully settle down, really chill out, and just recover as best it will. So my fear is that as it has become so thin, I don't want it to split completely. And I figure rather than just wearing a slightly smaller piece of jewellery, the best chance I'm going to have of it at least partially recovering is going to be literally just to leave it empty for the time being. I don't know how long it will be completely empty for. I'll probably leave it empty for a little while at least. I will probably put something back in it just for the wedding if I haven't already started wearing something regularly by then. But yeah, I say it's very, very thin just around this area here. I don't know how well you can see it. I've actually got a mirror here. Let's see. Yeah, just around this area, just here. Hopefully you can more or less see in the camera at all. You can't really see very well. I have actually lost a tiny bit of tissue. That's where it's been pinched so thin that the blood supply to that little area that's been completely cut off. And so what's happened is the cells there have died and just flaked off. It's only very, very tiny. It's only really noticeable if you're staring straight up my nose and you know what you're looking for. So touch wood, I won't actually lose any more tissue. Fingers crossed anyway. We'll see, I guess. But fingers crossed I won't actually lose any more tissue. But so yeah, I've been sort of thinking a little bit about what I'm going to do going forwards from this point. I'm not expecting to get it back as big as it was any time in the near future. I am hoping still further down the line that I will be able to get it back to where it was, at least as a 28-ish. But for the time being, like I said, I'm quite happy just to leave it empty, just to let it settle down. And yeah, so I've been sort of considering options of what I could do going forwards. So one option would be to potentially at some point visit an artist who can just do a little bit of a repair job just on the tissue around there. There's a couple of artists in mind I would message if I actually do go that route. In theory, it would be a relatively easy... You know what, I was actually going to draw a diagram. I actually thought of drawing a diagram just to try and explain this a bit better. And I didn't bother, and now I'm regretting that. Yeah, basically, where it's got the little groove on the inside, it would be a relatively easy procedure to essentially just sew it back together. What would need to be done, where it's got like the little V-shaped groove where the edge of the jewellery sits in. Bear with me 2 seconds. I've got a Sharpie here somewhere. Let me draw this out quickly. Should have thought of this beforehand. Not on that. Envelope, that'll do. Really should have thought of this beforehand. I almost did this and I thought, nah, I can't be bothered. Right. Bear with me 2 seconds. See my amazing art skills. Right, so hopefully you can see that. I think it should be more or less in the middle of the screen. Basically, if you imagine this bottom line is the outside of the tissue, and that's on the inside. What has happened, where I've been wearing the jewellery, is basically made a little tiny groove on the inside of the nostrils, which is where obviously it's become quite thin. And what's happened where I've actually lost the tissue is this has gotten so thin that the actual tissue itself has died off. Now, an easy way, the actual simple way of actually fixing it, obviously would be to see a mod artist. And what they'd have to do, they'd have to cut into the V a little bit just to open the tissue up and then sew it all together. So it'd pull the 2 sides in and it would just end up with a scar through the middle like that, and it would close it all up. Hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully you saw that right. Hopefully it was in screen. But yeah, that would be the so in principle that would actually be quite an easy thing to do. It's it wouldn't even be as much hard work as actually closing up a split earlobe. You know, quite often when people manage to rip their ears, if they don't have them closed up completely, they'll often basically cut a little bit from each side and then sew them back together. It'd basically be a simplified, well, not necessarily simplified, but a similar version of that, just to bring the 2 healthy bits of tissue back together. Let me sit back a bit, to bring the 2 healthy bits of tissue back together and then just allow it to heal up. To be sutured up together and just left alone for a while. Now, I say the procedure itself would be a very simple procedure. However, obviously it's up inside my face, so the question becomes how would an artist go about actually getting up there? And one option would be just to obviously twist my nose about and just almost more or less fold it inside out and try and do it that way. But that would be a lot of hard work. So that got me thinking about other possible ideas, and now well, to me at least, the obvious other answer would be with the like I mentioned before, going the stretched nostril route. If I further down the line stretch my nostrils out to be pretty large, let's say 27mm for example, all of a sudden you have a nice big window that you can look in and even potentially work through, actually get to the area a lot easier. So quite possibly much further in the future, once I do have very large actual nostril piercings, I will contact an artist and ask about possibly doing something like that. And that will then, touch wood, I'd have to see how it would heal, because obviously anything like that is quite a, it would be quite a, what's the word, not necessarily experimental, but not a common regular thing. So there's no telling exactly how it would heal up, but, oh, kitten's down there ripping something up now. But that would be a potential avenue to do that further down the line. But of course that means I need to get my nostrils pierced, need to get them stretched. So that's, yeah, I think that is, if I ever go that route, that's probably what I'm going to do, what I probably will do further down the line perhaps. And so yeah, obviously that's quite a way off still, but I will, no doubt before then, I will be wearing something back in my septum again anyway, once this is all settled down. I'll give it a few weeks, maybe even a couple of months to fully settle down and just chill out. And I will put in, I will probably pop something back in just as an off-the-cuff guess, it'd probably be around the 22 to 24mm mark. And the reason I think it would be that sort of size is just because something like a septum piercing is quite different when you leave it out to, say, leaving out stretched lobes or something. Like stretched lobes or even a stretched lip will shrink down quite a bit, relatively, not necessarily quickly, but it will shrink down a noticeable amount. Something like a septum, because it's a little bit different, because it's not just stretched tissue. Part of the whole is the fact that the cartilage itself has all eroded away. So the actual piercing hole won't shrink down as much as a lot of other piercings might do when they're left empty. So I fully expect... Kitten's coming this way. So I fully expect even after it being empty for potentially a couple of months even, that 22 to 24mm should be... What are you looking at now, you crazy girl? 22 to 24mm should be reasonable size to expect. Like I say, I've left it empty in the past for several weeks and things like that, and so I have a rough idea of where it'll end up. And I keep looking over there because all my jewellery's over there. I'm fairly certain that my other septum pieces are all over there, so that won't be a problem at all just to find that and pop that in. Like I say, I'll probably wear something around that size during the wedding anyway, just for the photographs and that sort of stuff in the wedding. But yeah, so obviously it's left me in a situation thinking what else I can do, just to keep having a bit of fun. Excuse me, I'm very tired, I apologise. And so yeah, obviously the next thing I probably will do, as I mentioned last couple of videos actually, is to finally get my nostrils pierced and stretch them up. Now, I know I said in the last video that I would probably wait until after the wedding to actually get my nostrils pierced, but honestly, I'm just really, really excited to get them pierced finally. I have wanted to get them pierced since before I even started getting piercings. I got my first piercing on my 16th birthday, and in about a month's time I'll be 32. So quite literally 50% of my life I have wanted my nostrils pierced, and I still want them pierced. And the fact that it is now something that's probably going to happen in the very near future is very exciting to me, and I'm very much looking forward to finally doing it. So that's going to be that'll be awesome. I'm really looking forward to that. So I messaged Anna earlier, and I may well go see our friend Preston and actually get them pierced, possibly before the wedding, possibly not, possibly. It depends on funds and time and all that sort of stuff. I mean, we've literally got 3 weeks to the wedding, so there's not a lot of time beforehand to get it done. But yeah, something else I am now very much considering doing, something I've spoken about before as well, is the septal piercings. I think my hair's a bit of a mess. I say I'm still a little bit damp from being outside. The septal piercings, something else that I have very much been looking forward to doing, and the plan was, once I finally stopped stretching my septum, to then start on the septal piercings. Obviously I've now stopped stretching my septum, albeit for slightly different reasons to what I had hoped. So yeah, I'm very seriously considering also starting the septal piercings in the near future. I was literally just a few minutes ago, before starting this video. What are you doing, madam? You leave that alone. Wait, don't you be pressing that. It's going to turn the camera off. There you go. Hopefully she hasn't just turned that off. Little terror. But yeah, so sorry, where was I? Septal piercings. Yes, so completely thrown me off. Thank you for that, young lady. You're going to get a tickle in a minute to teach you a lesson. But anyway, so yes, septal piercings. Yeah, so this definitely won't be until after the wedding. But again, in the relatively near future, I may finally start getting septal piercings. And the plan is to get piercings literally from all the way from the top here, where the cartilage is missing, all the way around underneath. More or less right back to where my actual lip is. And I've been thinking about how many I actually want. So the original plan was to stretch them all up to sort of 6 to 8 millimeters. Now I probably won't stretch them that much while I haven't got an actual plug or anything in my septum. So what I might do is, I was actually just before doing this, yeah, that's what I was saying, wasn't it? Just before doing this, I was actually drawing dots on my nose to try and figure out exactly how many I might be able to fit around. And I like the idea and the spacing of perhaps 7. Now, I was originally, if I was wearing jewellery still in my septum, I was originally going to get them pierced one at a time. Just because wearing the actual jewellery at the same time as trying to heal a septal could potentially cause some minor issues, just with irritation to the actual new piercings themselves. But as there's not going to be anything in it for a little while, I could potentially get the whole lot all done at once. Now, I will have to speak to Preston. I've spoken to him about it briefly in the past, and he actually said he's really excited to do something like that, because it's not something he really gets to do very often, anything quite like that, because it's admittedly they're quite unique piercings, and so I'll have to have a word with him if he'd be comfortable doing multiple piercings all at once, or if he'd rather do them one at a time. But yeah, I'm definitely up for the idea of quite literally doing the whole lot all in one go, that would be an interesting day, I have to admit. So that might be on the agenda in the near future as well. So yeah, it's all good. Like I say, it's a shame that it's come about like this. It's just the way it's gone. I say whenever I'm doing any sort of modification type stuff, I never expect everything to go 100% perfectly all the time. Anyway, I've been doing this for long enough now that I understand that things don't always quite go the way you initially plan them, and it's just part of what it is. It's just part of the way it goes sometimes. I don't tend to look at when things like this do happen, and I've had various different things of this nature happen in the past, where it's sort of thrown a bit of a curveball and put me back a little bit and sent me down slightly different plans and slightly different paths to what I originally had planned. But I'd never look at it as necessarily a negative thing. We might get a little bit deep now, but it sort of plays along nicely with my overall sort of life philosophy. Like, things, just because something happens that isn't necessarily planned doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing, even if it might seem that way initially. The way I look at it when stuff like this happens, not just in modification, but in life in general, is it's an opportunity to learn and to grow and to adapt and to find a way to overcome a new situation. And I think that's, overall, I think that's a very healthy way of trying to look at things, rather than just having a big panic and like having a big mental crash. Instead, use it as an opportunity to take a step back, to look at things, and to figure out a way of moving forwards and overcoming adversity, I suppose. I suppose that's what I'm trying to say, rather than just giving up and crying about it. So I don't see this as a negative thing as such. Obviously, it's not an ideal thing, but I certainly don't see it as a negative thing. It's something that I can use to continue to push myself forwards in new ways. So yeah, I'm not sad. I'm sort of sad, but I'm not sad, if that makes sense. It's just a new, slightly different path to what I had initially hoped on doing. Hoped on a slightly new path to the direction I had hoped on initially going. So yeah, it's the way it is. There's no point in crying over spilt milk, so to speak, as they say. And yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing exactly what next. Say this opens up a whole new chapter and a whole new avenue of potential little ideas, things that I can follow and now do, now that the septum is no longer the primary focus anymore. So yeah, like I say, I'm super excited, especially to get the nostrils pierced, because like I say, I have quite literally wanted my nostrils pierced for over half of my life. And I'm a little bit nervous about it because I understand they are quite tender ones to get and they are quite painful. But and despite the impression people often have about me, I don't like pain. I can tolerate it, but I do not like it. So I'm a little bit nervous about it, but overall I'm very, very excited about finally actually coming in, madams. About finally actually, oh, I want to cuddle. Never mind. About very excited about finally actually getting to do it. So yeah, it's all good. It things can always be worse. But yeah, like I say, the size my septum piercing is, even when it's empty, you can still see right through it. Hopefully you can see from the side. So even without anything in, there's still a giant hole through the middle of my face, which even that I actually think, when I actually stop and think about it, I think it's actually kind of crazy. The fact that it's that big that even without anything in it, you can still plainly see I have a massive piercing through my face. So that's all good fun. It's all good fun. Anyway, I've been waffling on for a lot longer than I expect I would. So I will say goodbye. I actually have to go down the road and get some cat food, which is annoying because, to be honest, I just want to go to bed. I've got one more day of work before a couple of days off. And I will try and get another video up before we go away. This coming weekend we're going away to the first of our festivals. I will hopefully get another video up before then. I do want to answer particularly the question from, I think, oh my god, I can't remember what your name was. S.J. Campbell, something like that. I should have double checked before this again. I'm tired, I apologise. The question about my opinions on the rise and popularity of body modifications and the way things are going with that at the moment. I actually think that's a really interesting question, and I probably could turn that into another long waffly video. So I will, hopefully if I have the time, either Tuesday or Wednesday this week, I will get that recorded and I'll post it up before I go away for a few days. But anyway, yeah, like I say, I have stuff to do. I rather irritatingly have to go buy cat food because I forgot to buy cat food when I was at Tesco's earlier. So yeah, I hope you're I hope I haven't been waffling on too badly and haven't made too many logical mistakes. Like I say, I'm rather tired and worn out, so I apologise. This has been a very long, rambly one. But I will speak to you all again soon, and yeah, ta-ra for now.